Hey, what's up? I'm Ray Green, former executive turned nomad entrepreneur. I ran sales teams for more than 15 years. I was managing director of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and oversaw the national small and mid-sized business unit and led turnarounds as a CEO for private equity groups. And in this video, I'm going to share how to overcome any objection that you are going to face in your sales process. Let's dive in. If you are running a consultative sales process, meaning you've got multiple steps in the process, you're going to run some type of qualifying call, then you're going to do a discovery call, then you're going to do a proposal or an assessment or something like that. So you've got multiple touch points, or you even do all of that in one call. Then I'm going to share something with you that's going to help you overcome every sales objection that you will ever get in your career. I have coached hundreds, maybe thousands, but at least hundreds of service business owners and salespeople who are selling services. So MSP and IT services, coaching services, consulting services, you name it. And in these coaching sessions, a lot of times I'm asked, how do I go overcome these objections? Like, what's the silver bullet? Like, how do I overcome the price objection? How do I overcome I'm not ready to buy? How do I overcome I need to talk it over with a decision maker? And my answer to every single one of those is all roads lead to discovery. This has served me really well throughout the course of selling or training sales teams to sell more than $200 million in different types of services. Okay. And what I mean by that is when you go through a sales process and you encounter a sales objection, the objections that you get at the end of that sale can almost always be tied back to a gap in discovery. If I'm going through the process and I've done like a full discovery, and then I've done, if I'm selling IT services, like an assessment or something like that, and then I show up for the proposal meeting and I go through the proposal meeting and I get to the end and I say, we just need to, we're not ready to make a decision yet. We actually there's a couple other stakeholders here. So I just want to run it past them and then we'll talk it over and we'll shoot you an email. My question to myself, if I'm running the process, or to the salesperson, if they're running the process, is how did you not know that there were other stakeholders involved in that process? You missed something in the discovery. Like you missed something either in the booking process where you could have captured some of that information, or in the discovery process where you could have asked, who else is usually involved in decisions like this? Who else do you usually include when you're making decisions like this? You ask those questions on the front end so that when you get to the end, your response to that is, oh, Susie, I'm confused. When we were talking earlier, you said that you were the person that handled all this and that you didn't include anybody else in the decisions, right? So you're able to use the information that you got in discovery. Same thing holds if they go through the process, you get to the end and they say, love everything that you've done here. Price isn't like terrible. We're just not ready to move forward. Then I'm going to audit my process or the salesperson's process. I'm going to say, okay, why in discovery did we not identify why we're talking right now? Right? Like, why did we not identify that there was a lack of urgency on the front end in the part of the process where we are actually supposed to find that information, right? Because a really easy way to find that information in discovery is to ask them, hey, so why are we talking now? Like, why not 6 months ago? Why not 6 months from now? Like, what makes this a now conversation? So you can tie those questions in early. Same thing with price. Same thing with not good timing. Same thing with any other objection that you typically face. Now, there are basically 5 objections that you're probably going to get across every industry. Like, they are almost always the same typical things because it comes down to trust. It comes down to their decision-making process. It comes down to a series of factors that are just psychological because we're dealing with humans and it's human nature, human behaviors. That's why the objections tend to be the same, which means you can typically look at what your top objections are and then figure out, how can I preempt this? How can I get ahead of these things? And what questions can I introduce in my discovery process that are going to make it bulletproof at the end, where I can use their own words, where I can use what they've told me. If I've asked the questions the right way and I've captured the information and I've been listening, I can use those later, and that becomes the rebuttal that you're looking for. And this is intended to address the thinking or the mindset of a lot of salespeople who want a silver bullet at the end, right? Like, they want a silver bullet response or statement or something that they can say that's going to magically overcome all of the objections. In any consultative sales process, there's always context for that. It's like, how do I overcome pricing? What's the contract value? What's the need? What's the urgency? What happened to discovery? Like, are they qualified? Like, you go into all these things because all roads lead to discovery. Everything that's happening at the end of the sales process is a result of something that happened at the beginning of the sales process. And if you can reverse engineer the things that you know that you are going to need at the end of that process, or that you're typically going to need at the end of that process, and install them into your sales process early on, from the first point of contact, into the booking forms, into the booking funnel before they show up to a call, into the discovery process. Those are all great opportunities to get ahead of these objections, not waste your time, minimize the objections, and give you the ammunition that you need to actually overcome the objection, because you're going to be using their own words. And if you don't know, like, what are the typical objections, then every single sales process that you go through, walk out of that room or get off that Zoom call, identify what the objection is, go back to the beginning of the process, say, how can I get ahead of this? And then just do that. Rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. I promise you, if you do that enough times, you will basically eliminate most of the objections that you're getting at the very end of the process. Now, that doesn't mean you won't get them. You won't address them early on in the process. Like, you still have to, like, as they come up, you still want to address those things. But if you know that there's no urgency at the beginning of the whole process that you're going to go through, then you're not going to be surprised when you get the objection at the end. And you can prepare, and you can work on creating urgency if it's not there. And you can work on addressing the price resistance that they may have, or you can work on getting the right stakeholders in the room if that's what you need to do. All roads lead to discovery and consultative sales. And that is how you handle every single objection that I have personally come across in my own sales and in those of the sales teams that I've built and run. So hope it helps. Adios.